Hi everyone, this is Russ Coltman from Wetsuit Survival again. This is part 3 of the video series on making fire. What I have here is a selection, and by no means is an exhaustive selection of fire starting methods, but we're just going to go through some of the more commercial available ones, and I'll show you what we're looking at here. Alright, kind of at the top of the frame here is just actual flame sources. This is a Bic Mini lighter, a butane lighter. You know, multiple uses. It's going to flame up a lot of times, gives you some spark. The downside is they don't always work at high altitude. When they get wet, you need to dry them out, and they do break and they do leak. So that's that one. This is a Zippo, so also, you know, ready flame. But the problem with this is the fuel dries out inside. So if you don't pay attention to it, if you stick it in your bug out bag and think it's going to be there for you when you need it, it's not. So it could be dried out. So that's probably better off to take to the bar and act like the Dos Equis guy. All right, this is just a commercially available part tinder cube. You need a striker to do it, but there's nothing wrong with it. You know, throw some in your kit. These are all various types of strike anywhere matches of varying vintages. They work, keep them dry. You can strike them anywhere. You can strike them on your teeth, your zipper, your boot, your gun, a rock, whatever. I would just say I see a lot of people striking their matches like this. That's a sure way to break them. You need to support it with your finger when you light it. Don't worry, you're not going to burn your finger. You'll get it out of the way when the time comes. All right. These are hurricane matches or lifeboat matches. They light when they're wet. They light in high wind, and they stay lit for a while. Very intense flame. Good stuff. Have them in your kit. This is just a USGI match case to keep your striking anywhere matches. And these are pretty good. They have a gasket on them. I've had this one for probably 15 years and it's still good to go. It's got a little ferro rod striker on the bottom. You can use it with a knife to throw sparks in case your matches don't work. Alright, so that's kind of the open flame kind of methods. We'll get those out of the way. This is an odd one, so this is kind of a one-off. This is a two-part chemical system. So you put this powder with this liquid in a certain pre-measured amount, and given about 3 or 4 minutes, it bursts into flames. It's kind of cool if you want a delayed reaction for whatever reason. Alright, so these next ones all have to do with some variation on steel and a ferro rod. This is pretty simple. This is like a keychain kind of model. It's got a little bit of fire steel on it, and then just a section of large hacksaw blade, and it'll throw a spark when you do your thing. This is a tiny version of that in a little pouch. So this is another little ferro rod and just an actual section of hacksaw that's been cut down. This is a magnesium fire starter. It's got the starter on the side, and this is a block of magnesium that you can shave off. This one is an old USGI version made by a Doan machine company. This is going to be a whole video unto itself, so stand by. We'll do that later because this can be frustrating and rewarding. All right, these next two, this is the Gerber Strike Force. Basically, it's a piece of steel and a big fat section of ferro rod. It's got a storage compartment in the back for like a tinder cube or something, which is kind of cool. You can put your own in there. It throws a pretty decent spark, but it takes 2 hands to use, of course. This is the blast match. I don't know. The advantage to the blast match, if I can get the darn thing open, besides not being able to open it, the advantage to the blast match is you can use it one-handed. So you can shoot your sparks down like that. That's great. But if it's in soft surface like snow or a swamp, you're going to need to put it against something hard, like a log or maybe the top of your boot, to get some sparks. The other downside is because this has moving parts, this breaks. This is the second one I've owned. The other one broke. You can still use the ferro rod, but now it defeats the purpose for using it one-handed. So if I would take a pass on this if I was given the chance, or if you need to buy one of these, pass on that, get the Strike Force if you want something like that. Okay, next is stuff to catch on fire. It's kind of a tinder category or the cheater category. This is the ubiquitous cotton ball soaked with a little bit of Vaseline. If you want to change it up, you could use Neosporin. It'd have a dual purpose, at least in your bug out bag. But you put a little pea-size drop of Vaseline or petroleum jelly into a cotton ball, work it in, not too much because it's too gooey and it won't catch the spark. And you just kind of store those away now. This is called a film canister. This is what we used before we had digital cameras. All right, this is trioxane, USGI trioxane for using in a stove. It catches readily and burns. Gives you some time to make mistakes when you're trying to get your fire going and you haven't prepared enough, maybe small fuel like the straw wood. This will kind of give you an opportunity to kind of keep that going and recover from your mistakes. This is hexamine. This is the precursor to trioxane. It was used in the military prior to this. Hard to find anymore. This is just something, it's a commercial Ignito fire starter. It's crumbled up. It doesn't really stay in one whole piece, so that's kind of the downside. This does not seem heavy use, but it's still just all crumbled up. And this is kind of a smaller version of this. I'm not even sure what brand this is, but this is actually kind of a waxy material that breaks up and it burns fairly readily. So that's just some examples of the stuff that's out there, good and bad, and some of the pros and cons of each one. Ah, yes, and of course, it would be remiss if I didn't mention this for all my fans and haters. That's a road flare, and when all else fails, use a road flare and gasoline. Thanks for listening. I'm Russ Kolkman from Wetsuit Survival.